For as long as I can remember, I have loved going to the movies. There is something so captivating and transformative about film. How a gifted screenwriter can turn incredible ideas into powerful words, summoning drama, humor, and conflict from the page like casting a spell. How an actor who knows their part better than they know themselves can breathe life into those words, creating a character who until that moment only existed on paper, and a performance with the potential to be remembered for generations to come. And how a director with vision and imagination can bind those rare elemental creative forces, fashioning them into a gateway able to draw you into whole other worlds, holding fast to your senses until the closing credits roll, and sometimes, if the job is well done, for far longer. My name is M. Glenn Gore. I'll be your host each week as we explore in depth the newest releases both in the theater and at home. You're watching In Like Glenn, and today we're discussing Annihilation. The following video review contains spoilers for the film Annihilation. Proceed with caution. Okay, you might want to strap yourselves in. This one's going to get a little crazy. In my recent review of the wretched haunted house Misfire Winchester, I briefly mulled over how difficult it is to make a great horror movie. And while I may not have all the answers, I do know a large part of that challenge comes from the fact that fear is subjective. For example, I loathe clowns.
Oh yes, they float.
And I'm sure you can see why. Some people can't handle needles, or will cringe at the thought of stepping on broken glass. Others freeze in their tracks at the idea of dolls, and literally grip their armrests anytime a dentist is on screen. Fear is different for everyone, making no two viewer experiences the same, which is the reason your individual mileage may vary when it comes to things like sharks, heights, robots, or bees.
No, not the bees!
The best horror movies succeed because they bypass the cosmetic, surface-level scares and delve deep into a short but primordial catalog of the most basic and shapeless of human phobias, plumbing the depths of the soul for the things we all dread, whether we'll admit them or not. And while Annihilation, the new science fiction film from Alex Garland, isn't a horror movie in the strictest sense of the term, it is, nevertheless, a perilous journey into terrors both existential and physical that plays host to not only one of the scariest moments I've witnessed on screen in some time, but also to some of humankind's oldest, deepest, and most inalienable fears. Chief among those is the fear of something foreign invading your body, changing you against your will until you are no longer recognizable to yourself, let alone to others.
This is some scary shit!
Garland gave us the chilling and cerebral 2015 masterwork Ex Machina, a stellar dissection of human interaction, weakness, and sexuality that remains a high watermark for not only the director, but the genre itself, with screenwriting credits on both 2003's indie outbreak insta-classic 28 Days Later and 2012's visceral and effective graphic novel adaptation Dread. All eyes were on him when this feature was announced, and let me tell you, it does not disappoint. Seriously, you're going to want to see it twice, because Annihilation is why we go to the movies. Based on the novel of the same name by author Jeff Vandermeer, Annihilation recounts the story of 5 female scientists who volunteer for a suicide mission into a mysterious environmental anomaly, a massive iridescent bubble filled with mutated plant and animal life that continues to slowly overtake an evacuated patch of Florida swampland. They are the most recent exploratory party to enter this so-called shimmer, as only one person before them has returned alive. That one is Oscar Isaac of the latest Star Wars trilogy. He plays Sergeant Kane, last survivor of the previous expedition, missing now for close to a year. He returns to his wife Lena, a cellular biologist and 7-year Army veteran played by Natalie Portman of that other Star Wars trilogy we don't dare speak of.
You're breaking my heart.
But it only takes us seconds to realize he has not come back from the other side in the best of shape. In fact, he's a mess.
I feel terrible.
Disoriented, disconnected, and emotionally withdrawn, with large pockets in his recollection of the last 12 months, Lena's concern becomes dread once Kane starts to hemorrhage. A desperate attempt to speed him to the ER is waylaid by a convoy of window-tinted SUVs traveling in formation, who instead take them both into custody, hurrying them away to Area X and the Southern Reach, a secret government installation positioned at the brink of the anomalous and otherworldly shimmer. Here we are introduced to Dr. Ventress, a psychologist with an air of melancholy so palpable it becomes oppressive, portrayed by the hateful eight's Jennifer Jason Leigh. She is responsible for the vetting, selection, and deployment of all units who have entered the shimmer over the 3 years since it appeared, but the continued absence of answers from the other side has pushed her to make a dire choice, to lead the next and final expedition herself. To do this, she has assembled a crack team of experts equal to the treacherous road ahead.
Where are we going?
Or so they believe. They are Anya Thornton, a gregarious paramedic played by Gina Rodriguez of Jane the Virgin fame, Josie Raddick, a soft-spoken physicist portrayed by Thor Ragnarok's Tessa Thompson, whose outer calm masks a long-time inner turmoil, and Cass Shepard, a shell of a geologist and surveyor depicted with a wilting ghostliness by Tuva Novotny of the 2016 drama A War. Portman's Lena joins the excursion, hoping against hope that whatever lies beyond the boundaries of the Shimmer will hold the key to her husband's salvation. Once across the threshold, the company immediately comes face to face with wonders never before beheld in the natural world. Multiple plant species splice seamlessly together, trees bearing the shapes of men, women, and children, disturbing and irrefutable evidence of the horrible ends met by the many teams that preceded them, and disparate breeds of lethal animals haphazardly hurled together to create nightmarish chimeras, all byproducts engineered by the alien Shimmer.
I'm gonna make some weird shit.
Annihilation will remind you of any number of sci-fi and horror entries that have come before, having clearly drawn inspiration from the lot. I doubt very much that the first person to be infected by the Shimmer is named Cain by accident. It stretches out its arms to grasp bold ideas, inviting you to run with them, and finds itself flying close to Denis Villeneuve's 2016 achievement Arrival. It contains instances of haunting, heartbreaking horror that are straight out of the Full Metal Alchemist anime, and boasts a climax that is as much 2001: A Space Odyssey as it is Darren Aronofsky's The Fountain. The film is clearly influenced by a great many science fiction entries of yesteryear, and while the footprints of those what have come before are evident in Annihilation's genesis, they in no way rob it of an originality entirely its own. It forges its own path, assuring itself a future place alongside other classics within the genre. To that, anyone familiar with the seminal 1931 H.P. Lovecraft masterpiece At the Mountains of Madness will find parallels throughout, making you regret even more that it never made its way to the silver screen. The characters grow more interesting as the story unfolds, but I couldn't help but wish Garland had been more ambitious with their introductions. When we meet the bulk of the women, they are socializing around the picnic table at the Southern Reach base. What we receive is an info dump about their miscellaneous fields of study, but what we don't get is much of a glimpse of who they are. Remember the helicopter landing sequence at the beginning of John McTiernan's Predator? Without so much as a word spoken, we are given visual clues as to the kinds of people these characters are. Bill Duke's Mac arrives in the jungle wearing a suit, indicating that whatever they've been called here to do is so urgent and came about so suddenly that he was forced to drop whatever he was doing to come here. And the image of a relaxed Arnold taking the time to light a cigar tells you he has no fear of what's to come. Likewise with James Cameron's Aliens, which treats us to this scene in which Drake and Vasquez perform pull-ups fresh out of hypersleep. In seconds we see she is tough but respected, gives as good as she gets, and that Hudson is kind of a dick.
Whoopie fucking do.
This kind of characterization goes on for the first third of the film, same as it does in Predator, until you have a sense of the people you're traveling with. It's theatrical and a little over the top, yes, but it gives you a lot of information without feeling like people are just reading you their resume. It also has the added merit of being genuinely entertaining. The first handful of scenes with the scientists could have benefited from a similar approach, but what we received instead was about 20 minutes in which every character just kind of felt, sounded, and reacted to everything in the same way. This doesn't last, thankfully. Along the journey, we are told each of the 5 women is damaged goods and self-destructive by design, because no one whose life is in order volunteers for a suicide mission. Why would they? Anya is a recovering addict, Radica cutter, and Ventress we later learned is dying of cancer. Shepard has what is perhaps the gravest reveal, the loss of her daughter to leukemia. She says in a way it was like 2 bereavements, one for her child and a second for the person she was, which is one of the many themes the film explores, that being change, becoming something or someone other than the person you are, and what that change means in terms of one's identity. I'm pretty sure there's a face-off joke to be made here, but I don't know what it is.
It's like looking in a mirror, only not.
That wasn't it. Anyway, matters take a turn for the worse when the company learns what time inside the Shimmer does to you, which is to rewrite one's DNA, combining it with literally any other genetic material that happens to be around, leading to unpredictable but inevitable physical transmutations and a terrifying loss of self. This development begets argument, paranoia, one character's psychotic break, and a nail-biting moment reminiscent of the blood test scene from John Carpenter's The Thing, another tale of a shape-shifting extraterrestrial life form that crashes down in Earth's wilderness. This ties into the subject of cancer, a theme repeated in Annihilation, both in regards to characters that have died or are dying from it, and in the way Lena refers to the tumor-like growths they find covering the walls of the buildings within the Shimmer. One of her earliest scenes, a flashback to a cellular biology class she instructs at Johns Hopkins, is even devoted to relaying information about a cancer-stricken patient. Lena surmises in the end that the extraterrestrial responsible for the mutations of the plants, animals, and ultimately themselves didn't come to Earth with any actual intent, which is a fascinating idea. To put it another way, it's easy to view cancer, or any disease really, as an evil, yet they aren't. It isn't. Cancer is neither good nor evil. Cancer merely is. Like the being the narrative surrounds, it grows, changing everything it touches until what it was is no longer recognizable. But this is never malicious. There is a great deal to be said about facing one's own mortality in Annihilation. As the minds and bodies of the company become more fluid, as they endure mutation upon mutation, losing more and more of themselves with every passing minute until the fear they will meet the same end as their forerunners is all but assured, you come to a frightening realization. How much can you change before you are no longer you? In the end, it isn't death that becomes difficult to face, but the idea of who you are being stripped away a piece at a time until nothing of you remains. If I have one complaint about the film, it was the decision to intercut the events inside the Shimmer with flashbacks of Lena and Kane's beleaguered marriage. It's there as a means of driving home the theme of self-destruction, how humans are genetically predisposed to sabotaging themselves, especially when nothing is wrong. You know what I'm talking about. It's the reason the first Matrix didn't work, did it, Agent Smith? No. These scenes aren't poorly done or anything, I just wish we could have gotten glimpses into the backgrounds of the other characters too, as Portman's Lena is easily the least interesting member of the lot. In addition to everything it leaves you to ponder upon its conclusion, Annihilation is also a consistently gorgeous film chock full of vibrant, well-rendered effects. All of the elements within the Shimmer are imaginative and fully realized, nearly to the point where you kind of do want to see it envelop the world. It strikes a precarious yet impressive balance and walks a netless tightrope between beauty and grotesquerie. The resolution, like Ex Machina before it, is both pleasantly open-ended and satisfyingly ominous. It's a film that gives you more with each additional viewing. Having seen it twice now, I'm still eager to return. I'm not even a little bit convinced I've got it all, or if I ever really will, and that's alright by me, because it dares you to keep looking. I'm giving Annihilation 4.25 stars. That's it for today's episode. As always, thank you for joining me. If you enjoyed the show, please like, share, and subscribe, and follow me on Twitter for more updates. Until next time, you were just in like Glenn.